Head over to miniaturemarket.com where they have thousands of board games at discounted prices like Castles of Tuscany. Castles of Tuscany is a strategy game for 2 to 4 players where you're trying to score points by playing sets of cards to place tiles and trying to finish different regions of the same color. The bigger the region, the more points you'll get. There is flexibility as the type of set collection you can spend in order to place those. You're always placing adjacent to a previously placed tile, but you're also trying to eventually finish certain colors first. The quicker you do so, the more points you'll get. In addition to placing tiles, you'll also be taking tiles from a middle display, as well as possibly drawing cards that you'll be using for that set collection to place the tiles. And each tile type gives you a certain effect when played, like getting a marble allows you to take another turn, or maybe drawing 3 cards, or using a worker to act as a card type, or getting some random goods. All different types of abilities. At the end of each round, you'll transfer your green points to your red points, but these don't reset, so each round you're going to be getting more and more points. Whoever has the most at the end of the 3rd round is the winner. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Castles of Tuscany has a lot going for it. The streamlined turn structure is great. Turns move fast. The hand management of when to use cards and when to waste cards, great decisions. The different tiles abilities gives you good depth, and it feels like a full-length game in under an hour, and I like that you're racing to finish certain things like in Burgundy. It does feel like a smaller, quicker Castles of Burgundy, with obviously some differences. There's 2 main glaring problems. One is it has a terrible runaway leader problem. If you're down 6 or 7 points at the end of the 1st round, it's going to be almost impossible to come back to win because of the way the scoring works where you don't reset your score. And the second half of the last round tends to be boring because all the exciting turns and the things that you really need to get done is already done. So it is a good game, but if it wasn't for these 2 big glaring negatives, I'd recommend it. But with those, I can't do it, and that is Castles of Tuscany. Hello my friends, it's the Game Boy Geek here. Today we're going to be building castles with tiles. And it's not going to be in Burgundy. Today we're talking about Castles of Tuscany. This is a shorter game than Castles of Burgundy, but still done by Stefan Feld, which has some similarities, but also many differences to what many think is his best game is Castles of Burgundy. So let me show you how Castles of Tuscany works, and I'll see you on the other side. At the beginning of the game, each player gets 3 of these modular boards, and you can configure them in ways that you'd like for strategy. Every player gets a starting dark green castle that they'll place in one of the 3 dark green spots. Over the course of the game, you're going to be building out from your castle and placing tiles of the light color where they're at, but always building out adjacent to one that you already have. And you're mainly going to be getting points by completing certain regions of the same color. If it's just 1, you'll get a point. If it's 2 of them, you'll get 3 points. And if it's 3 of them together, you'll get 6 points. So for example, this is a region of 3 touching. If we get tiles of this color in all 3 of these, we've finished it and we would get 6 points. Now you'll see there's also a light green here and 1 out here. Remembering you're only building next to where something else is. But if you're the first to get all of that region done, you'll look at that scoring and you'll get that many points, in this case 4, then it will flip over, it'll be worth less for the second player to do it. The game is played over 3 rounds. Each round you'll be getting points on this green track, and at the end of that round you'll be transferring those green points to the red track, which is your final score, but you don't reset the green scores. So it's essentially every round you're going to get more and more points added to your final score, which is the red. Turns are pretty simple. You have 3 choices. One is to just take a tile. From the open display, you take any one of these and you store it. Well, we're going for light green, so let's just take this one. Every player starts with 1 spot they can store, but every player also starts with 1 bonus tile. I've decided to start with a second storage, so I can actually store 2 tiles there. Then I take a tile face down from the leftmost stack. Player's turn. Turns move that fast in this game. Another thing you can do on your turn is place a tile. Now to do that, you would need to play some cards. Everyone starts with some cards. In this case, it's light green. If we discard 2 cards of light green, we can place this, always surrounding at least 1 other tile and on the color like this. Each of these tiles also has an ability that will trigger when you place this, but we'll go over those in just a moment. However, you might not have 2 of the same. Maybe you have 1 of the color you're going for. You have 2 of another color that are the same, but different from this one. This counts as 1 of the green, so you could play this to place that. Or maybe you had no green, but you had 2 yellows and you had 2 sort of, brownish colors. And this could be considered a green and this could be considered a green, and you could place that. So 3 different ways you could play the cards. Instead of taking a tile or placing a tile, you can draw cards. By default, you can draw 2 of these cards into your hand. Those are the cards we just used to place the tiles. So let's talk about the different abilities. This one, the green, light green, gets you 1 point for every unique type is there. So this would have been a point. If I place this here, it'd be another point. But if I place the same type in there, it would not give me a point. Remember, what we're trying to do is fill this up to get those different bonus points depending on how many there are. Now this one allows you to take a stone, you can store it here, and you can use that at the end of your turn to take another turn essentially. The orange one gets you an orange worker that you'd place here, and this essentially allows you to use that as if it were 2 of the same card types. So for example, if we needed 2 greens, for example, let's say we needed to play 2 greens, but we only had 1, we could discard this for the second green in order to play one of those tiles. The light brown one allows you to draw a yield card. And these cards give you random things, like you get to draw 2 cards, or it gives you an orange worker, or it gives you a point, for example. For the light blue in, you get to take this, and it's essentially wild. You can play this onto any place, following the normal placement rules, but you still have to play 2 cards of the color that it's going to be, but then it actually acts and gives you the ability of whatever tile color that is. The red one allows you to add a bonus tile to the right of your board. Each of them is 1 of these, and it just gives you more storage. Like now I can hold 2 workers. Here I can hold 2 of these. Putting some here would give you more cards to draw anytime you draw a card, things like that. Now if you finish one of the dark green areas, you can take any of the 8 open tiles that are possible to take, and you put it immediately on your spot without playing cards, but the normal placement rules apply. Now I mentioned the game lasts 3 rounds. The first round ends when the first player that runs out of tiles on the left side runs out. Second round ends when the first player runs out of the middle, and the game ends when the first player runs out of their right stack. And at the end of each round, you're going to transfer this. So red is going to get 12 points, they're going to go here. Green is going to get 7, and yellow is going to get 4. Now, these do not reset. So now next round, when red starts getting points, they're going to be moving up. And let's say it ends here, they're going to get 17 more points to put here. So things cascade. So if you do really well in the first round, you've got a big advantage for the rest of the game. At the end of the third round, whoever has the most red points is the winner. All right, there is Castles of Tuscany, and I want to first say that I very much enjoy Castles of Burgundy. So I was hoping that this was going to be like, a somewhat similar experience, but different at the same time, but also under 60 minutes. So let's talk about, those are my expectations of this and what my hopes were for it. The game definitely has streamlined turn structures. I mean, you're either taking a tile, placing a tile, or drawing cards. That's it. Because of that, the turn pacing in this game is excellent. It's like turns move really fast in this game, and it's one of the best things about the game. There's not a lot of downtime. The turns are just flowing. I like the hand management of when you need to waste extra cards, because it's like, ooh, should I wait for a second card of that color, or should I just play these 2 oranges instead as that color? Oh, but I kind of need oranges over here a little bit, but ooh, do I need it now? Are we almost to the end of the round? A lot of this game is about being the first to things, so you got to be efficient, but you got to know when to waste those extra cards. I like that part of the decision making. The different tile abilities definitely adds a lot of depth, and I might want to go for this, but I could really go for this one first, which would give me this ability, which would then allow me to use this worker to use only just 1 card over here, and you can kind of sort of trigger things together like that. I like that aspect of it. It definitely feels like sort of a full-length Euro game, but under an hour. And full length is usually like a 90-minute game. But this feels like a bigger game than it is, but it takes less than an hour, and I think that's good. I like that you're trying to race to finish sections before others, little mini races, kind of like trying to be the first to get certain sections done in Burgundy. The earlier round you do it, the more points you'll get, things like that. It did, for me, feel like sort of a smaller, quicker Castles of Burgundy, without the dice, of course, and with some differences there. Definitely is a different game, but you could tell the lineage was from that. So it sounds like I really liked this game, and there was a lot that I really liked about it. But unfortunately, there were 2 glaring negatives that I can't get past with the game because they were just too big for me. Number 1 is the scoring. The scoring itself, now the game has randomness, and I don't necessarily mind the randomness of because you're taking a lot of card draws, and they're all blind draws, right? And so you're getting these cards, and sometimes you're just not going to get the cards you need. Sometimes the tiles that you really need just aren't going to come out. And so there is some randomness there, which I don't mind. But when you add the randomness along with the way that the scoring works, the game tends to have a runaway leader problem. If you're in the lead in the first round by 7 points-ish or more, it's almost impossible for someone to catch back up, even if they end up doing better than you in the last rounds. Because they have to do a lot better than you just to make that up, because it's that scoring where it's like you don't reset your score. You just keep getting better and better and better. And I understand that they're trying to sort of simulate how in Castles of Burgundy, if you complete something in an earlier round, it's worth more points. But you add the randomness to this and maybe not being able to get the cards or the tiles you need. If you're like the only one that didn't get a 3-section done for those 6 points in the first round, you might as well just not play the rest of the game because you can't win. I mean, it's just, I don't understand this because it's a major part of the game, and it's the reason why I can't recommend this game is because it's just like after the first round, you could possibly do it. Now, granted, if everyone has played the game before and everybody knows how the scoring works and everyone gets their boards out and they set them up for getting the quickest 3 sections as quick as possible. The one I set up in the over was good. You might have been able to get 2-3 sections in the first round there with that setup. But if everyone knows that, it's going to probably happen less often. But it's still possible to have a very bad experience with this with the runaway leader. The second is the second half of the third round tends to be very anticlimactic because all the players have pretty much built out their villages. The ones of finishing different colors are always either you're not getting any points for it or you're getting the smaller points. And the game has this arc where it's like the beginning of the third round is still exciting. You're trying to finish things and get all the things done you want to do, but the whole second half of that round tends to just be boring. So I think the game, even though it's under an hour, the time itself isn't bad, but the last 15 minutes of this game can be a bit boring because all the good exciting turns are gone at that point. So because of those two glaring negatives, it's not one that I would totally recommend. Definitely try this one before you buy it if you can, and that's what I think of Castles of Tuscany. Lucky Duck Games has 4 new games available now. In the Court of Miracles, you lead a guild of beggars, scheme with sinister plots, and use trickery to build your own renown in an attempt to take over 16th century Paris. Baron Voodoo is an abstract strategy game involving the collection of thematic soul dice, and it made my top 10 most anticipated releases at Essen's Spiel this year. Kingdom Rush Rift in Time is a tower defense with epic heroes that includes a campaign and an infinite replayability mode. It was hugely popular on Kickstarter, raising over $1 million. Chronicles of Crime 1400 is a standalone follow-up to the award-winning Chronicles of Crime, where you'll be solving 4 unique crimes in medieval Paris. These are all available in stores now, and you can learn more and order them at luckyduckgames.com.